Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 13th edition of ThinkTalks at AmityOnline. Today's topic of discussion is modern consumers versus modern brands. And I have two extremely esteemed panelists with me joining for this discussion. My name is Shifali Singh, and I've been in the trade of fashion and lifestyle, building some extremely popular global set of brands for Indian market. I've seen the big change which has happened in Indian consumers' shopping pattern and the retail experience over the last 10 to 15 years. So I'm extremely excited to be here and joining this discussion. Let me take a minute to introduce you to our panelists. I have Rajdeep Sahrawat joining us today and Sandeep Golchha. I'll request each one of them to introduce themselves a little bit more about their work. Rajdeep.
So my name is Rajdeep. I work for an organization called TCS, Tata Consultancy Services. I worked with them for about 25 years, which is my whole working life. I am very passionate about technology and the impact technology has on the way we live, the way we consume, and the way we sort of interact with each other. And it's an interesting topic, and I look forward to the discussion.
Great. Sandeep.
Yeah, so myself Sandeep, and I had an organization by name AXSource Global Private Limited, and I have been into retail industry for last 18 years and serving the technology to the retail sector.
Superb. So let's get the discussion started. My first question, Sandeep, to you would be, we all have been a part of the generation that, we've seen almost about 20 years of retail behind us, shopping from mom and pop stores to now shopping from very elite set of malls and now online. What do you think are your top 3-4 big changes that you see in retail sector then versus now, and what are your views on that?
Okay, so then and now there is a complete transformation of retail. We can see from the unorganized sector to the organized sector, from the brick and mortar to the online, which is one of the major transformation has gone. From the manual activities to the technology savvy or digitization is another transformation we can see here. Earlier we used to walk to the market whenever there was a necessity, but now it has become kind of a status symbol. It's a necessity to stress out, kind of, or do a family outing with you. And when you go along with your kids or your family, you need to have lot of things organized in one place, because the way you spend your time in the working hours, or you spend your time on the road, is something which is very stress taking. And when you get into a mall, probably you want to stress out there, and lot of activities you want to be available for you in one place under one roof. Maybe it regards to the refreshment point of view, maybe it regards to the entertainment point of view, or the shopping which you need. And all these things is transformed over the span of time of maybe around 10 or 12 or 15 years. It's not something happened overnight. Going forward also, it is going to bring a lot more changes, lot more technologies, and more consumer friendly, rather than we call it as a business centric. It is going to be more a customer centric activity is going to happen on the particular retail sector. We see a lot of foreign companies entering into the Indian market and investing. There is a complete growth they are observing. By 2020, it is going to be tremendous time for them, where most of the big giant retailers are going to enter into the Indian market. They are going to either establish by their own brand, or they are going to merge with the existing brands so that they can grow fastly. And this is also happening, that the small retail organizations are taking together and coming as a new or a big brand, so that all the different set of need of a consumer can be fulfilled at the one place. And this is what the transformation I have seen in the last experience of more 10, 12, 15 years.
Great. Rajdeep, your views?
So, like in any other sector you look at in the economy, whether it's banking, financial services, even the government, there is a huge channel shift happening. And this channel shift is happening from the offline, manual driven to a digital channel. Now, this channel shift is going to drive a huge, the way we transact with each other, the way we consume, and the way we even interact with each other. I mean, for example, you don't take a taxi today, you Uber. Yeah. Uber is a digital platform. It is not a taxi company. You Google. You don't search. You just Google it. And I think the way this channel shift is going to happen is not through just a piecemeal approach. So malls are one part of retail. The whole fulfillment supply chain, which is from the factory to the stock to the shelf, I think this whole chain is getting transformed today. And whether it's through the use of drones, robotics, play of integration of artificial intelligence with big data, with IoT. So it's not about just a technology incremental change. This is a fundamental reimagination of how the retail of the future will look like. And the retailers who don't keep pace with this change are going to die. We are already seeing chains like Debenham, House of Frasers in the UK dying, and some of the more traditional chains like Marks and Spencer undergoing a digital transformation.
Yeah.
So it's a very interesting time. Like the Chinese say, we live in very interesting times.
I couldn't agree more. I think, Rajdeep, so I see the retail sector changing in two parts. And since the topic of discussion is also modern consumers versus modern brands, so I think one part which I strongly see change is how the consumer experience is changing. The expectation from the consumer's point of view is changing dramatically. Today, the millennials who are our new age consumers are looking at instant gratification of product. They are looking for immediacy. There is a convenience they are looking at. They don't have the time to go to a mall on a weekend and shop. They want something tomorrow. So I think convenience, immediacy, instant gratification, ability, the aspiration to spend a lot more than they are possibly earning, the aspirational space that they're operating in. Retail overall as a sector has become more beyond just the necessities, become more like, I like to live my lifestyle in a certain luxurious manner. And all of those behavioral patterns and all of those thought process changes are actually like the latent opportunities which are impacting the retail sector, which is what I think is driving the whole growth of online platform versus the physical stores, of impacting all the elements. Because one thing that I did take away from your point of view was that from how retail was more business centric or more transaction centric, I think the next 10, 12 years or 10, 15 years is going to be completely customer centric. Because today the customer is actually having the power to define how they want to shop for a product, how do they want to have an experience with the brand. And that is actually deriving and pushing all the retailers and all the giant who are already there in this game to change the way we shop. So I think consumer experience, consumer expectation is one of the big thrusts for the changes in retail sector. And of course the brands, I agree to you Rajdeep, that it is not just, I think it's a transformative phase over the next 10, 15 years, because it is not just one element of store being moving or online shopping. I think every element of how retail happens, whether it is from the cash till to how the goods are being fulfilled from point A to B, how the labeling of the product happens, everything is getting touched by technology. And I think we are literally we've just scratched the surface, the way I look at it. I think the next 10, 15 years, so much of technology penetration is going to happen, and everything is almost moving on the app, on the wearable. So I think future is going to be extremely exciting, extremely challenging for all of us to discover. So yeah, so if I consolidate some of our views, I think the way I look at it is one, technology is going to be impacting the entire value chain of the sector as well, like it has impacted any other sector, banking or financial, and that is one. Second, from a business-centric or a transaction-centric mindset, the brands are moving to a more customer-centric mindset, which means that they are willing to reinvent themselves based on what the consumer is looking for. And everything is centered around them. So if they want convenience, I need to have a click and collect service in the store. If I want immediacy, an Amazon has to deliver in 4 hours to the consumer. So those are the changes that we see from how business was done earlier versus now. And the third, which is how overall retail as a sector is only going to grow and evolve with the transformation and penetration of technology. And I think some of the next questions will be surrounded around that. So let's move on to the next question, gentlemen.
Sure.
So my next question I would again start with you, Sandeep, since you are in the business of retail analytics, and and you have some extremely fantastic clients like Airtel and TGIF and even Delhi Airport, right? Yeah. You've been in this trade of retail analytics. So what do you see are the big impacts of AI and retail analytics on the brands and also on the consumers, and how is your company supporting this side of the business, and also overall, what do you see the market for AI and analytics? Is it going to grow? How is it helping the brands to improve and grow their business? What are your thoughts on that?
So the analytics, or AI we call it, it is just at the very early stage in the Indian market. But going down the line, it is going to drive a lot of things, lot of business decisions, etc. on that. We started from a brick and mortar store to online store, or we started from the manual or cash register to the high tech point of sale. We started into the CRM kind of system, where we call it as a customer relationship management. We started capturing customers' set of information, their buying pattern, their likes, dislikes, their personal informations like date of birth, anniversary, gender, etc. But ultimately, what we are going to do with all these set of data? So if we look at the global market, they realized in the right manner, and they started, this is not the only thing which they need to do with these set of data. There are a lot more we need to do, we need to give it to the world, which is ultimately going to be a driving force for you. So in India, we started talking about artificial intelligence. What exactly this artificial intelligence is? Maybe even I'm not the right person to define it, but as the understanding of a layman, we all see that something should be driven. Whatever information we are collecting, there has to be some processing of that, and then some output should be given to that. Information we have been collecting for last 10 years. But what we are doing for those set of information, with those set of data. So we thought, okay, fine, now collaborate all these set of data, put some algorithm on that, some calculation on that, and see what output we are going to get, or what output actually we need to attract more and more customers, or grow our business, or cope up with the upcoming technologies. We are going towards the drones and the robotic. What it is going to be? We are not going to replace the manpower to extent, but yes, there has to be some addition done to that. We started capturing this set of information, then you start putting all this and come up with some set of offering to the end customer or end consumers, or to your business, whatever industry you are into. We are talking about the retail, so let's take an example of the retail itself. When customer go to a particular mall and they start focusing on one particular area, you keep on recording those pattern of a customer. What that output you are going to drive from that, there has to be some fundamental understanding of that, some transformation of that. So look at that, do some offering on that, and release it to the floor. Just for example, if customer is walking into a particular mall where there are some products kept for the shelf life. This shelf life is maybe for 3 days, 5 days, or 7 days. So what you do, once the product is replenished on the floor, you know that okay, this is going to last for 5 days. On the 3rd day, now the stock is still available up to this extent, this count, but you are left with only 2 or 3 days more. You need to do some activity. Instead of doing this activity manually, or with the help of your ERP system, make it something more intelligently to be driven on this. Maybe you club.
I'll pause you, Rajdeep. What are your views on AI?
Sure.
Since technology is your heartbeat, almost I can sense. 25 years in technology. So what are your views?
So artificial intelligence is like that old story of 5 blind men and the elephant. Mm-hmm. Everybody touches it and has a different experience with artificial intelligence.
True.
Right?
True.
So artificial intelligence is not about analytics. We have had analytics since last 20 years. What the power of artificial intelligence or cognitive technologies, as a more abstract term, is that it enables you to process structured, which is your standard ERP, CRM data, and the unstructured data. And I think that is critical.
Yeah.
Second, more data you feed into your AI systems, more intelligent those systems become. So they are able to almost start behaving like a human being. Not close to it, but more. And once you take the next leap of faith into deep learning, those are neural networks which function like the human brain. And that's when you start exploring the power. That how do you replicate the human mind? How do you preempt or you understand the customer better? It's not about the footfall into the mall.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all about the buying behavior, the impulses which drive that buying behavior. So more and more the millennial generation is doing impulse buying. How do you stimulate that through machine learning, through deep learning?
Yeah.
So I think AI, we are just scratching the surface.
Yeah.
In many areas we have gone deep dive. But retail, I think we are still scratching.
Yes.
We're still using AI for analytics, big data. So I wouldn't call it AI.
Yeah.
I'll call it big data.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not AI.
AI,
It's
we've
just
not
big
even
data.
there. Yeah.
And if you integrate social media with your static structured data, then you start really having fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because what the guy is talking on Twitter,
yeah. How do
is-
you relate?
how do you relate that? How do you create a personalized experience?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the fun which will
Yeah.
come in the next couple of years.
Yeah. No, very interesting thoughts, and I agree. So one big shift that I have seen, and having been in the fashion space where we've been working with brands, and I've been a part of building brands. So far, traditionally, whenever you are creating a new collection or you're planning a new collection, it is largely driven by the trends that you see, and then of course, your own gut feel as a designer, and all of that comes into play. Today, a lot of that has changed because there is so much of pre-forecasting that you can do in trend analysis. You actually in my companies that I worked with and the assignments I've done, there is so much data available of how what colors they choose, what patterns they prefer, what kind of seasonality they follow when they're buying a product. All of that data, when it comes together, it actually tells you that these are the kind of products which are highest in demand. And when people like us start to build a brand or start to build a collection, we actually use that data to say, you know what, I'm not going to go by my gut because I think this is what the data is saying. And I think that's one big shift, because all traditional retailers, some of the best brands, someone like House of Fraser you mentioned, John Lewis, Marks & Spencer, Debenhams, all of them have been in trade for over 100 years, but they've never really focused on using data. It's always been about forecasting trends, or it will be taking cues from the fashion weeks and then bringing those sensibilities and creating something which is called a brand or a collection. Today's time, when the kind of data which is available, especially with the big online players, I think we're using it completely to future forecast what could be the next big color to trend on, what should be the big new collection that we should create. And we've seen an extreme amount of success as well. We've had some collections created, which were, I must share this with the audience here as well, that we've created some collections which are purely based on data. There was no designer input. It was purely by getting information on what colors have been selling, what silhouettes are selling, and we said this is what the collection should look like, and we went ahead and produced that. And we've seen a phenomenal run rate and phenomenal sellout of those products. And to the extent that it leads me to the next question, but I will leave that for now, is that there was a point in time a lot of creative people and designers start to feel that is our forecasting or our ability to foresee collection, because fashion is also about being very creative. Is it going to become obsolete when something like an AI truly takes force? Because today we're talking about big data, but eventual goal is that is there a machine that can actually replace a human mind and do predictive analysis on what should be the next big thing and what should we be investing in, on what should be the retailers buying in? And I think those are going to be some very interesting times to see. But that's a big shift that I have seen, and wherever the companies who are choosing to invest in technology and using this big data, I think it helps in taking extremely smart business decisions. And biggest challenges in retail is inventory. I think some of those issues hopefully should get resolved when you use information like this. Forecasting is one of the biggest challenges in retail trade, because when you look at from an FMCG to a fashion lifestyle products, inventory is the biggest challenge that you face. So I think here I see big data playing an extremely pivotal role. The second place on consumer behavioral pattern, I think that is again, when you think of how we used to shop versus how the data used to be collected then, versus how, like you mentioned, Sandeep, right from knowing how many kids are there in the family to what have been buying over the last 1 year, all of that data, when it's combined together, can actually give a phenomenal profile about the consumer and how do you actually create that customer stickiness. So in my view, taking cues from what you've said, all of this is eventually to have maximum customer stickiness and to win the customer. And because we are working in a very cluttered environment with so many plethora of brands entering the market and operating, I think everybody's eventual goal is to create customer delight and to win customer loyalty. And all of this information is, eventual goal is to have higher customer stickiness to the brand or to the retail stores that we are operating with. Any other points, Sandeep, that you'd like to add, Rajdeep?
No, I'll just add one more point, because when you talk about customer experience, the customer experience has to be not only in a silo. It's not about what is your customer experience in the store. It has to be right from your call center to your fulfillment. So you can have a great store, but if you call the call center and you're getting some irritated call center operator, you destroyed the brand.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the play of integration of technologies is more important than piecemeal. So big data is one technology. You have to marry that with IoT for your supply chain management optimization. You got to marry that with artificial intelligence.
True, absolutely.
So I think, and that's the point we make when we, not for this forum but for any other forum, is integrate the technologies. It's not about silos. It's not about X versus Y versus Z.
Yeah.
It's about how you integrate it.
And also, I think it wouldn't give the desired result. So if the, like you said, consumer experience has multiple touch points. Product is one, returns is could be, fulfillment is third, marketing is everything. And I've seen this in my experience that retailers tend to look at only one element, and they actually approach with a very silo approach. Let's first invest here and then see the ROI and then invest in second. But actually, when you see, unless you integrate the whole value chain, which is impacting the end experience, you wouldn't see that big shift in what you want to create as the consumer
Brand
delight.
loyalty.
And I think that's a very important point that you shared, and I completely agree with that.
And I'll just take 30 seconds more. There is a credit card, I won't name it. You call the call center. You can actually have a conversation with those people at the other end of the line. They talk so nicely to you. Versus other cards, when they call you and they sound as if you're doing them a favor by talking to you.
Yeah.
I won't name the card. But that card it's a pleasure to talk to their call center.
No, I completely get that. Sandeep, any last thoughts before we move to the next question?
No, I think we have covered most of the points. So, respecting the time, we can.
So I think this is something I did touch upon, and it's been I'm possibly representing the more creative side of the trade versus technology and analytics. But so the next question which is leading to is that with so much of technology penetrating deeper and deeper and impacting every side of retail, do you see that it is going to impact the the creative choices of people? Before I answer, because I have a very passionate view on this, I would possibly love to hear, Sandeep, what do you think? Does it impact creative choices? Does it make the current segment of people working in this obsolete? Do they have issues looking forward, future? What are your views?
No, it is not, as per my understanding, it is not going to create an issue, but rather it is going to complement to what we are going towards. We are talking about the big data, then the analytics, and then the AI. And the current experience, whatever you are getting, is keep on adding to my big data. I'm not losing anything from my past experience, but whatever the new things are is going to be an addition to that. So I don't foresee that it is going to impact on the negative manner. It is going to impact the skill set of that. People, we are helping them to learn more. Basically, we are providing a platform to them, because before online shopping, they just go to mall and do the exploration of the product. Now, before they go to mall, they have an option of internet where they search, where they find their choice of product, where the stock is available, where the color is available. So it is making them easy, less time. On the way also they can do this kind of search, and then they reach to their correct location instead of doing hitting here and there. So ultimately, we are giving another platform, maybe not in this manner, but in another manner, where they keep on adding their experience to the future technology what we are going to add on.
But that also means that there is a constant need of themselves being upgraded. And I think that's the real challenge. But I'll come back to sharing my views. Rajdeep, your views.
So I think data will give you choices, more informed choices. But ultimately, like Harry Truman had that plaque on his desk, the buck stops with you. You have to take that final decision based on data.
Right.
But whether you go A or B,
Yeah.
Right.
I think creativity will not die.
Right, right.
And you see that everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. So I think my view is that I think technology influences the facilitation of consumption of brands. And which is why the first thing that I said that, we are in the age of the millennials where people want instant gratification. Can I see the Louvre Museum in Paris on a 360 view? That's instant gratification. I don't even want to spend that much money or travel all the way because I want that experience. So the way I look at it is technology is facilitating a lot of consumer experience, but I don't think any point in time creative choices can actually die down, because that's what adds novelty. If everything becomes symmetrical and consistent, then there is no novelty factor. And I think, so in my view, technology is going to possibly change the way products are being consumed, brands are being consumed. How are they going to be positioned? How are they going to be displayed? All of that could change. So, a classic example comes to me, in some part of US, you have these now new pop-up stores which have come up where you see the products. You don't have actually the product, you just have a 3D hologram of the product, which gives you all the descriptions of the product. You got to make a choice of whether you like the product and place an order, and the product gets delivered to you in 48 hours to whichever part of US you are. Now, again, that's a classic case that the product positioning and display is completely metamorphosed in the last 10 years that we see. There is no product display, there are no fancy stores, it's a pop-up store where you only get to see technology part. But again, the guy or the individual who is making a choice there is driven by, do I like this color, does the shoe look good? So eventually I think creativity continues to sustain. It's only going to transform from a facilitation and from a point of view of how is it going to be represented to the consumer. That is my view. And I don't know what's going to happen 10 years from now. Maybe we are talking of a very different kind of display screens, and everything will be completely AI and 3D driven. And there'll be no real products to touch and feel as it is today. So, but I think creative choices will always be there because that's what adds to the novelty and uniqueness.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
Anything else?
No, I think this is what going to give a next platform to the technology. If you do not have any critics or any the manpower juggling with these things, you will not have another option to scope or improve it. So today we from the CRM or from the ERP we started talking about big data, AI. Okay, so this is something, a creativity came from the human only. It's not from the system generated. So tomorrow we will have something new coming up. Maybe not immediately after 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, but there will be definitely. So it is not going to impact on the negative manner by any chance, which what we think of.
Yeah. This particular topic also leads us into the second segment of the questions that we would be discussing, which actually is something that all of us have experienced also. While we do agree that creative choices will continue to thrive with technology, but at least I see clear big divide of this upgradation of the people who have creative understanding of creating phenomenal products and services to a new technology platform. And I think that shift, unless and until there is a skill upgrade or a skill upgradation, either they will get replaced by somebody else or that skill upgrade has to happen, because you can have the best painters and the best artists, but how do they showcase their products on this new age way of consumption by the consumer? I think that's a bit of a challenge that we'll discuss about in the next layer of our discussion. Before we break, I'll move on to the next set of questions. How do you think that technology is going to enable, and I think you have been doing a lot of work on customer loyalty for some of your clients, so I think you'll be one of the best persons to share your expert opinions. How do you think technology is helping build customer loyalty, Sandeep?
It's what we have been talking so far is going to be part of that only. If you can stick your customer to your brand, okay, the customer is loyal to you, and you can maintain that customer even for the next 10 years also. But a small mistake and customer switch to the other one. That mistake may not be due to the quality of the product, due to the availability of the choice what customer needs, but a small mistake can happen from a salesperson on the cash counter or at the time of a return or exchange. So as Rajdeep shared, that it has to be integrated under one umbrella. We have a staggered manner, everything is lying there, and if one point gets hampered, you lose your customer.
But tell me something, you've been working on projects which are centered around building CRM for your clients. So it will be helpful to understand if some of those CRM tools that you created for your clients, what was the difference they saw before and after? And I think that will be interesting to understand.
From the customer point of view, if you look at, let's say you are a multi store. Okay, you have 10, 20, 50 stores across the country. You buy a product from a store 1 and you go and from Delhi you are buying and you are going to Bangalore, and then you realize that this product is not for your choice or not fitting to you. You can return into the Bangalore itself. This is what the centralization, this is what the service customer is getting, and this is what it is keeping you joined with the customer closely. If anything happens, if tomorrow another brand comes and if they are not giving this service, they may go once to explore it. But if this kind of experience customer gains and they feel that no, they are not able to return to the another location and previously, they will switch back to the previous one. So this is where the technology is driving major role into all these things. And this is how you can keep your customer loyal to your brand as well.
Rajdeep, what are your views, and have you in your stint worked on CRM-centric support systems for any organizations?
Not really, but we are one of the largest service organizations in the world.
Yeah.
So we have our own CRM.
Yeah.
Having kept that, see, I think the fundamental play which is happening around brand loyalty is the customer experience. And the customer experience is not, like I said earlier, at one point you can be superior and one point you can be average. You go to a website. The website has to be so intuitive. That's your face of the organization. That's your experience.
Correct.
And I think the best website in the world today is Google's search page.
Yeah.
Simple, uncluttered.
Yeah.
That's it.
You get what you want.
You just get what you want, right? You don't have to think what to do.
True,
right?
true.
Then how you enter a restaurant or a store, or the moment you enter, the security guard standing outside.
Yeah.
So I think the brand loyalty comes from when the organization is thinking, how do I create a customer experience which is so beautiful?
Yeah.
Whichever point the customer touches my organization, whether it is a call, a toll-free number, or my return service, it has to. So you start thinking from a point of view of customer delight at every touch point. CRM is just static data.
Right.
It's just a data repository. That's the end of it.
Right.
So how do you create, and that has to be part of the DNA of the organization.
Correct.
So in my own organization, we have a very silly sounding term, say-do ratio, S-A-Y, do. It means what you say, you got to do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Right.
It's a simple metric.
Yeah.
What you say, you do.
Yeah.
You don't say something and do something.
Right.
So that's the DNA in my organization.
Right.
That whether you talk to a customer, you talk to a colleague, you do what you commit.
And that's a promise you're making, so that stands by.
And that has to be part of retail, hospitality.
True.
Every touch point has to be customer delight.
True.
It cannot be, let him walk into the office, great.
True.
Call the call center, crap.
Yeah. True. I think the way I look at it is that, I do in fact feel that customer loyalty possibly 10, 15 years back was much higher purely for two reasons. One, obviously market had very limited options. That was one. But also it was extremely driven by personal interface. And that personal interface was almost like a relationship. So each vendor or each store or each touch point from a consumer, there was a more than just a customer and a vendor relationship. It was a relationship which was forged. So when so a classic example that I always share is that you look at the jewelry brand stores that our families have been shopping, you'll realize that there is such high level of stickiness to the brand stores that we've been shopping for jewelry, purely because it is not that you know how pure the gold is, or you know how that's the best price in the market. It is such a strong relationship of trust which is formed, and the relationship and the comfort that you have with the shopkeeper that has transcended over generations, and your family and your next generation continues to shop for all the big events from those stores. So I think one big shift that I see is market was less cluttered then, and the personal interface were extraordinarily high, which enabled to create this big loyalty and this connect. When I look at today, of course, there is a complete explosion which has happened in retail sector. There are tons and tons of brands and tons of options for people to choose from, and the personal interface has reduced dramatically. It's the screen time on the time which we spend with our interface is much limited. It's so driven by technology, and that's where technology has to now take the garb of creating that personalized experience. So, which is why AI comes into picture and robotics comes into picture and so many things, that how do you replace a human interface with an outstanding intuitive screen or a experience that the customer feels that delight, despite that the fact the other end is not a human being. Because with the scale and the kind of setup we're talking about, if you want to grow big, I think that is the only reality you have to live with. So I think big data, AI, all of that is going to play an extremely critical role in winning the customers. And given the way I'm concluding on this topic is that looking at how cluttered the market is, and I think the competitive space that we are in, I think customer delight is a reality that all the brands need to align. That's the only way they can have consumer experience, consumer stickiness. And AI and big data and analytics is going to just play a very pivotal role, influencing the entire value chain, which is impacting the organization and the consumer. So with that, we'll take a short break and we'll come back to you. Stay tuned with us. We are seeing Think Talks at Amity Online. Hi everyone, thank you for watching us. We are back. Welcome to the 13th edition of Think Talk at Amity Online. The topic of discussion today is modern consumer versus modern brands. And I have two panelists with me, along with me, Sandeep Golchha and Rajdeep Sahrawat. So we've been getting a lot of questions from the audience, so thank you for watching this show. I'll get on to the questions from the audience before we move on to our set of questions. So the question to you, Rajdeep, I have is that it's from the audience. How do we ensure customer is brand loyal when all the competition is just a click away?
Yeah, so that's a good question. And customer loyalty has to be looked at it from a 360-degree point of view. Customer loyalty will not be driven by one touch point or two touch points. And we touched upon, sorry, for no pun intended, but touched upon the touch points earlier. That it has to, the organization, whether it's in any sector, retail, banking, etc., has to think from how do I ensure customer delight whenever he interacts with the customer, with the organization, whether it's a call center, whether it's a entering the store, whether it's a website, whether it's a refund, and that also has to be part of the organizational DNA. Because I'll give you a small instance. Yesterday was pizza night at my house, and we ordered pizzas. And for some traffic reasons, the delivery guy was late. My kids were getting very impatient, and my daughter called the pizza, store, and the line manager said, "Sorry, ma'am, we will give you a refund and give you another extra pizza." Now, this ensured that my daughter said, "Dad, what a great organization." But the line manager was empowered to take that decision the moment my daughter expressed dissatisfaction on delivery.
Yeah.
And I think that has to be part of the organization DNA as compared to saying, "Oh, I'll get back to you, oh, we can't do this." And that's where you destroy the brand.
Yeah.
Right? And I think more the organizations think about this 360-degree delight more than showed loyalty.
Yeah.
And that is why you have, people, the older people like me going to the same brand for their things because of that whole great experience.
Yeah.
And I think that is the fundamental, not having a great website or a great store. Yeah. Everything has to be great.
True. I agree. I think this was one of the things we were discussing before this question came up as well, is customer loyalty, I think, is not at all driven by technology as a force. I think customer loyalty, when I think of customer loyalty, it's multitude touch points that are influencing your decision to purchase a product or a service from A or a B organization. And that multiple touch points has to resonate with the expectations of the consumer. And when we say those multiple touch points, like Rajdeep mentioned, it is about great product, it is about great service, it is about after sales service, it is about how a particular complaint is handled, it is about how fulfillment is happening. All those elements actually make a customer come back to the brand again and again and again. And I think each of the brands in retail space have experimented and identified their strength. So I'm also of the belief that can every organization be brilliant in every aspect of that customer service? I'm not too sure, because each individual organization needs to identify what is that strong differentiation point which will create consumer delight. So a classic example would be something in luxury segment focuses a lot on human interface and giving an uber luxury experience to the customer. And they make sure that everything is customized for you, because in luxury it is about exclusivity, it is about uniqueness, it is about everything overshadows when it comes to customization and exclusivity. What kind of customer service I'm looking at when I walk into an FMCG store or a grocery store is extremely different. There the customer is looking for ease of shopping, faster service, immediacy. So I think every organization ideally should focus on multiple elements that influence the customer delight. But I think while in that journey, they also need to identify which is the most pivotal service that will define and differentiate their organization from the rest of the competition. And when you identify that, then you excel in that. So a creative organization needs to make sure that their products are always a couple of notches ahead in terms of what unique product they offer. It's a service organization, then it possibly needs to focus on fulfillment. If it's an after-sales organization, it needs to excel in making sure that we are the fastest and the quickest way of fulfilling a service. So I think some of those elements also are extremely important to bear. People who are running their own companies should be able to associate, because you can't excel in every aspect while you want to do. It possibly is difficult on that. Sandeep, what are your views on this?
See, it's a support system of an organization, and everyone has to contribute it. It's not something one person can take a decision and and drive the things. So ultimately, it's the whole organization come to one conclusion or one particular the focus and drive it. Then only it can be maintained. Otherwise, it is very easy to switch for the customer to any other, and there are plenty of choice available.
Sure. Okay, let's move to the next question. What are the growth prospects in retail analytics? And I think, Sandeep, you can be the person. You've seen retail analytics. Your organization is going strength to strength. Do you think this is going to be the big investment area for some of the traditional retailers who have not moved to this, or this is yet another jargon which is being celebrated now and will die down immediately? What do you think? I'm sure there are viewers who are extremely keen and excited to join this field as well. So what are your views for them?
See, for the retail analytics, yes, we all know that it's going to be next 10 years, it's going to be the tremendous opportunity for everyone, not only for the retailers, for the institutions, for the consumers, and for the people who are looking for their career growth into this particular field. We need to get the right track of that. What exactly you want to get into, what sort of analytics you want to get into, and where is the place where you go and enable yourself so that you are not distracted from the focus, yet you have given the proper option, and you are getting into a new
But is it a sector which is big? Today, if you were to say who are your biggest competition, you are providing retail analytics services to some organizations, right? How big is this, or you think it's at a very nascent stage? So from an industry point of view, is it something which is yet to be yet to evolve, or there enough number of players, or it's an unorganized segment? All of that, what comes to your mind?
I would say it's still a gray area which needs to be touched upon, and there are large players who are getting into this, same time small players also trying to see where exactly they can fit into. They may not be able to cover 100% of that, but yes, they are exploring it where all they can step in. it's like a online market. When online thing came, there are like certain thing happen, changes happen in the industry, and big players came with a big boom, but there was a small player also. Slowly they started, and they gradually they upgraded themselves, and then they survived. Anything which was not taken by them as a upgrade process or like the change management process, they collapsed. Same thing will happen for this as well. Like unless you know what exactly you are going to get into and where you are going to get into, it is going to be very hazy for everyone. And foreign companies or MNCs which we are talking about, they are planning on the big level to get into Indian market, because here the growth or like the need for this retail analytics is much higher than if I look at organized or like US, UK, European countries. They already have certain things achieved on this, and now in India it is just at the entry level, and the growth is going to be very tremendous for this. The only thing is you need to have a right track of that.
What do you think? Is India going to be extremely receptive to analytics, and what are the growth opportunities? Do you think it's a big element that can be leveraged by retail, and hence that can be a big game changer for some retail brands if they leverage this?
So I have a slightly different perspective from Sandeep on this. So India is one of the fastest digital societies in the world today, right? If you go by any metric, whether it's the penetration of smartphones, whether it's the penetration of fiber to home, whether it's the number of internet, we already have more broadband consumers in India than the entire population of the US.
Yeah.
So we are a very big elephant in the world when it comes to digital consumers.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So what that does is it's creating a hell of a lot of data every minute we speak of.
Yeah.
Right? So to say that analytics, and I'm not using the word retail analytics, I'm using analytics as a broader area, is going to be a huge opportunity. Is going to be a huge sort of demand for skills.
Yeah.
Now, organizations, whether they come, whether dragged screaming into the world of digital or they come willingly, everybody will enter. So the opportunities are immense, and I just get so excited when I look at data.
Yeah.
See, we have data now. To convert that data into information, is where your smartness comes into play, right? And that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
Like somebody said, data is the new oil.
Yeah.
Right?
It is. It is.
And it is. Look at the amount of data we are generating every second.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other point which I would like to make is that when it comes to data, it is not the amount of data you have, it's how you use it to derive information and insights.
Yeah.
Your creativity will come into picture.
Creativity will come from there, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a huge opportunity, and we are talking about the big retail. Now, India is not the story of big retail. India is the story of the Kirana store, right? He's the guy with the best relationship in the world.
Yeah.
Because when you walk into him, he'll ask you about your mom, he'll ask you about your pop, right? Now, if people on the other end of this talk show, if you are some entrepreneurs, let me give you an idea. Think about it. Create an analytics platform, host it on AWS, Amazon Web Services on the cloud, offer it as a service to your neighborhood mom and pop, and tell him, give me your data and I'll give you information.
Yeah.
When did Mr. Khanna purchase how many toothpaste?
Yeah.
So next time he comes and you tell him, sir, I have Pepsodent for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the opportunity.
Yeah.
So you have to get the mom and pop.
Yeah.
It's not about the malls, about the luxury brands.
Yeah.
It's about the mom and pop Kirana stores.
Yeah. Yeah.
When they embrace digital, that's the transformation.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I actually look at it like retail analytics is just a starting point. I think very, very small percentile of organized retail has actually even chosen to go that route. I think the amount this information can help you take smart business decisions with such meaningful consumer insights. I think we've not even 10% or 5% there.
Yeah.
So I think most of the companies that I see today in retail are leveraging retail analytics purely just functioning on using it to reach out to the consumer, or building a CRM package around it, right? Or making sure there is a database they're creating, because the mindset shift is yet to happen that this data can actually influence everything that you create in the store, right from which shelf your product should be placed versus what pricing strategy you should follow, or what should be the marketing strategy, or what kind of categories you need to operate in. If you actually deep dive into data, every question of that nature can be answered, and you can actually build something basis that. And I think that's going to be the transformative phase when AI or analytics and all of this will actually start to influence our business decisions, and our retail experiences will start getting influenced by this. So I think we are at a starting stage. There is a huge opportunity, and like my panelists also commented, I think it's just a start of a very transformative journey when we look at it. I think big shift is yet to happen. Retail itself is going through a massive change, but there is a large chunk of the typical traditional brick and mortar stores, or the mom and pop stores, or kirana stores as we call, which are yet to see this, because they are already having a great scale and they're operating and they already have great relationship. But how much this can leverage them in business decision and scaling is something they need to see, and those insights are something which are going to define the future. So yeah, so that was a great question.
And I'll just add one more point to that. We always have this notion that the mom and pop stores are adverse to technology. They are not adverse to technology. We have not created technology for them.
Exactly.
Always remember, there is never a bad customer, there's always a bad supplier. So the IT companies, firms like mine, are so focused on the Fortune 500 that they're missing the opportunity at the bottom of the pyramid. Correct. And you have to create solutions for them. They are not adverse to technology.
True. I completely
You haven't
agree.
given them the technology.
Correct. Okay, so moving on to the next question. This is very interesting, and I would possibly start this. 5 years down the line, do you think online brands will wash off the traditional shopping setup? So in my view, I think if you look at any part of the world where e-commerce has reached a little more mature stage, I think e-commerce in retail doesn't contribute beyond 8 to 10%. Online shopping is still about 10 to 12% in the most mature markets. And 85 to 90% is still your beautiful offline setups and brick and mortar and all of that. So I don't think so online or offline. I think the way I look at it, and this is a very, very common question which people ask me, you know, having been in retail and has seen an offline and an e-commerce platform. Eventually, 5-10 years from now, it's the technology which is changing the way people are consuming and experiencing the brand. It's going to become platform agnostic. It doesn't matter whether it is online or offline. The customers are going to come to the store or to the channel for the experience that they're looking at, which again is driven by their behavioral expectations. So I wanted a dress at the store and I wanted to click and collect. That technology is seeped in already, and that's what they're looking at. So it doesn't mean that they're in a typical store like that where you have a click and collect, online and offline is actually coming together. So I don't think so online or offline, either of them will not be essential from 5 years now. I think they will both coexist beautifully. What I do see is that technology is going to tie these two together very strongly to give a better experience to the consumer. So I don't think so it's going to be either or. Even in the most mature setup places that we've seen, customers love to shop online and offline. I think the sensitivities that come in offline, the experience and the touch and feel that you have will continue to play stronger and stronger. So that's my view. Sandeep, what are your views on this?
I agree completely to you, Shifali, and these both are going to go in parallel. Just to share one experience here, sometimes back we went to Decathlon online store in the Gurgaon, and we looked at one product, we liked it, but that particular size was not available. We asked them, they said, sir, size is not available. So they said, sir, you just look at the online, if size is available, you order it and you ask them to deliver at this store, and then you can pick it up. And this has happened. We looked at online, the product was available, we clicked it and we just said that deliver at this particular store only, and we got the stuff. So I cannot say that, I mean, like, no, either this will survive or that will survive. They are going to complement each other. Yeah. And when they are serving to a customer, it is all, when customer accepts it, that's all. You cannot say anything on that further.
Rajdeep, your views?
So if you look at it in the context of India, we are a very heterogeneous society, right? So while the digital penetration in India is sort of accelerating, there are still a huge swath of our population which will continue to, they like to go to the store. For some goods, even I would like to go to a store,
Yeah.
right? For most of my, like say, sporting goods, now I order online because I know what I want to buy, I order online. So I think in India, we are still several decades away from obliteration of one channel versus the other.
Yeah.
We will coexist, and that's the
Yeah.
joy of India.
And I think more than that, Rajdeep, what I also feel is when I think of coexistence, it's also that the engagement and the experience of the customers at the store has to change. So if I was to break this question in two parts, can the current model of offline thrive and grow with the current model of online? No, that's going to change. The way we see our stores today versus what you're going to see in 5-7 years is going to be dramatically different, because the engagement level and the experience which will be expected from our consumers will be changing, because you're talking to the millennials and they are expecting a lot more, which possibly in a finite space with a typical inventory buy and sell model may not be the ideal way to operate. So if they want to experience something, I want to try 10 type of skiing outfits. I don't want to wear each one of them. I want to stand in front of a mirror and experience and feel how it will look on me. So I think those touch points, experiencing it will change dramatically. Online and offline are going to complement each other, as Sandeep also suggested. And I think the way I look at it, it's going to be the era of digital, which is that physical and digital are going to come together to create a wow experience for the consumer. And that is possibly the only route for brands and retailers to succeed in future. If it wasn't that, then Amazon wouldn't be possibly opening stores, and maybe so many other brands wouldn't be moving into offline, and Alibaba wouldn't be opening into offline, because they do realize that you know, it's like, you love watching movies at home, but do you stop going to theaters? There was a point in time, and I remember, I'm sure all of us experienced that, when the VCDs and VCRs came in, everybody thought that theater business was going to immediately die, and a lot of theaters did shut down. But I think the experience what PVR created, and some of these Inox and all of them created, was to bring back that customer, because his expectation experience went much, much higher. He wanted, or she wanted, a better experience. So I think offline retailers taking cue from online and online taking cue from offline will have to identify what are those unique experiences which each channel provides, and how do they make sure that they keep upgrading that, because customer is only going to expect more and more going in future. Yeah. Okay, the last question, I'm going to ask you, Rajdeep, before we wrap up this questions from the audience. Will cashierless stores concept come to India, and do you think it will work in India?
So, well, India's becoming a cashless society, not a cash zero society. And like you said, that the millennial generation is probably more prone to be cashless. So already all of us use plastic in a wide variety. But so technology exists. From a technology point of view, you can have a cashierless store. From a customer experience point of view, probably that's not the smartest thing to do, because people will pay in cash, and you can't say that if you don't want to pay by plastic, you can't come in the store.
Yeah.
So it's a nice thought. Technology allows it, but perhaps customer experience doesn't allow it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sandeep, your view?
Agree. I completely agree with Rajdeep. You cannot enforce it, but it's a choice. So it's all depend upon the customer.
Yeah. I think the same. I think it's the customers defining it. I think in certain product categories, it's already happened. You walk into the airport, there are these pop-up things for beverages. You have to, if you want to have a beverage, there's no choice. You have to plug in your card or something like that. There is nobody managing or attending that kiosk. So I think it really varies from product to product. I think to conclude this topic, I think some of the touch points that we discussed, I think three very clear themes that emerged from the discussion that we had with Rajdeep and Sandeep today was that there is a big transformation which is happening in the behavioral and experience expectations from the consumer, which is actually driving how technology is going to transform retail, whether it's the physical retail or whether it is the online retail. The other big theme that emerged is that customer experience and customer delight cannot be attained unless you integrate the entire value chain of the segment and influence every element with the same objective that you need to wow the customer. That's the only way you can have customer stickiness and customer constantly coming back to your brand. And I think the third big theme that emerged is that retail analytics, I think we've all agree, we are just scratching the surface. There's a lot more that needs to be leveraged. There is a few companies and few brands and have already started use it. but till what level it can be leveraged to have extremely meaningful consumer insights, to take smart business decisions, to take decisions on how you want to, what's the next strategy for your brand, what do you want to do, where do you want to expand, all of that. I think there is just plethora of options that can be deciphered from this information. So retail analytics does not mean just purely getting the data together and putting it in system. The real magic and the real benefit is that when you use this retail analytics to have extremely meaningful customer insights, and that helps your business to go to the next level. So I think these were the three big themes that emerged. So I'll move back to now, thank you for sharing these questions. I'll move to the next and the last leg of questions that we have, which we had originally planned before we decided to move to the audience, is, and this is something which I think we've been also discussing and debating, is that do we think that the skill set requirement ratio in India is there to match the requirement? Do we have enough skilled manpower to match the requirement that we foresee in 5 years from now, Rajdeep and Sandeep, or 10 years from now, basis the big transformation and the changes that we've seen in the last 10 years and what we forecast for 10 years from now? And do we have good number of professionals working in that space? What are your views, Sandeep? Maybe you again, this is subject close to your heart.
See, most of the institutions and corporates, they started working on this. It is not that the resource is available readily to you, or you just overnight you build the capability on these things. But yes, like the people, the companies who are maybe like outside Indian market, they have been serving for years. So where the technology already taken a place and have been growing for last 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So you have some skill set available which you are utilizing it to build the more manpower, more capacity within that. Institutions like Amity themselves, they started focusing on this. They started amending their curriculums, included these certain technologies, not only analytics but lot more other, like if we talk about big data, then the crypto, etc. So these all the new technology which has touched upon, and the people are getting towards that. It may take some time to enable them, maybe 3 months, 6 months or a year, but it is, we have enough capable manpower available. When we look at the technology, India is the first country who comes into everyone's mind globally. We adopt the technology so easily, okay, that don't even realize that we have gone into this transformation. We don't feel as stressed on whenever there is a technology change. We enjoy it and we accept it. So getting a resource ready or getting the manpower ready for this technology is not going to be a challenge. Yeah, I mean, it is a matter of time, maybe a year time or 6 months time, probably.
Rajdeep, what are your views? Do you see a big gap between what we foresee as a big requirement coming up because of retail analytics, and so many, I think it's opening many new streams in retail which were not existing few years back, and do we have the manpower or available to support that?
So you need to break this into multiple segments. One is creation of technology, right? People who write the algorithms. That's a different skill set. So you need data scientists for that,
yeah,
right? Then you have people who use those algorithms to create applications. That's a different skill set.
Right. Yeah.
And then there are people who will use that data to derive insights. That's a third skill set.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So there is no retail analytics person.
Yeah.
So large organizations like mine have already 5 years back created a huge capacity in analytics.
Right.
And for us, it is very easy to now move from hospitality to hospitals to retail using that pool we have created. And I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of people, right?
Right.
Through online courses.
Right.
Academia will always follow the industry.
Right.
Right? So the industry has to define the demand, and you will have academia following. Some academic institutions will be faster than the others,
right,
who have more autonomy. Some will not be as fast.
Yeah.
But the basic skill sets are computer science, computer engineering, mathematics, statisticians,
Right.
In fact, one of the hottest skills in TCS today is mathematicians, not a computer programmer. So, and India produces enough people. Even if you knock off 20% of those mathematics graduates as subpar, you still got a pool of hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
So I think it's not a question of, it's a question of just taking the basic skills and customizing
shaping them
it for,
as required.
absolutely. And you will not create data scientists overnight, but you don't need data scientists for detailed analytics.
Right.
So there are different skill sets.
Exactly.
Right.
And different organizations will plug into them.
Right. So I think the one interesting thing I mentioned, right? So institutes like Amity, right? You have an AmityOnline program, which I think would be providing some very, very relevant programs, which leads into working in retail analytics field. My view in this is that the skill set versus the ratio requirement, and I look at not just in the context of, retail analytics. I think retail has 100 segments to it. There is supply chain, there is operations, there is buying and merchandising, there's product, there's creative side, there's fulfillment. So I think, do I see a gap between what we foresee as a requirement versus skill set available? Yes, I do. But I think there is a constant need for upgradation of skill set that needs to be very consciously built by the organization. So like you mentioned that your organization has already been ahead of the curve and invested in identifying that you are the biggest service provider to so many companies that you would need X set of people who need to have a certain kind of skill set to support that. So I think same goes for retail organizations. My thoughts are that they need to foresee the future is going to be extremely digital, future is going to be extremely tech savvy, and they need to upgrade that all the elements of the value chain along with the people who are operating on those to embrace that technology, to adopt it, to learn it, and then apply that to create a better functioning system. So I think that is a very conscious move, which because the talent is there, but you need to constantly keep upgrading. The best technology is the only thing which goes obsolete faster than anybody else. You can't make your human beings go obsolete. So I think you have to constantly work towards upgrading the skill set, which allows them to adopt new technology and still provide the value that they are providing at the organization. So there is a gap. I think with constant effort, constant push from the organization, I'm sure that is something which can be, because as a base, I think we are sitting on a crazy amount of base that we have manpower. So I think we don't have a dearth of manpower. We churn out the maximum number of engineers, and so many other colleges and institutes are there, like Amity as well. So I think we just need to constantly upgrade the skill set, which is relevant in the requirement of today's retail space. Sandeep,
Exactly.
your closer views.
I'm 100% in sync, and this is where, like, no, we just need to have provide them a right track where we can shape them as per the requirements. Force is already there, and every year we are, like, manipulating that. So this just the right track we need to set for them.
Great. So I think it was lovely discussing some of these thoughts from Sandeep, yourself, and Rajdeep today to understand how retail is going to change. I think some of the topics we discussed today are going to be seeing a sea change over the next 5-7 years. And I'm sure when we are here next, we will be talking about how these things have already changed and how consumers are shopping differently now. So I'm really excited to see this change happening in retail. And I'm sure it was delightful to have both of you join me for this discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we look forward to having for the next edition of the chat show. You're watching Think Talks at AmityOnline. Thank you.